Tre Mann, 31.5 minutes per game. He is at 12 points, 4.5 rebounds, just under 5 assists, 1.6 steals. We've talked about his active deflections before. 1.5 turnovers, so over a 2-to-1 turnover ratio, which is good for your shooting guard. 46% from the field, 36% from three. I think one underrated thing about Tre Mann is just his consistency. Like, I feel like you know exactly what you're getting from Tre Mann each game. And that is almost like those averages that you get there. It's like a 10, 5, and 5, 11, 12, like 5 and 5 line, basically every game, which is, pretty hard to do in the NBA, especially when you've not played that much time. You'd expect more swings, misses. I think you know what you're getting. This has proved to me that he is a rotation player, a bench rotation player, rather than a starter. He is not the replacement of Terry Rozier, in my opinion. I think he very rarely looks sped up or looks like off kilter with what he's doing. Plays to his strengths massively. I think that's one thing you can definitely see from Tre Mann. Limits his mistakes. I think you can see that in his efficiency, his shooting numbers, his assist to turnover ratio. But I also feel like because he plays within himself, he limits his own impact on the game. And when he tries to force things, like there's a play in that Cavs game where he went for a step back pull up 2-point shot, which normally Tre Mann doesn't do that. Like, he sometimes does it from beyond the arc if he's got the right matchup, but he doesn't normally take a ISO mid range jump shot. It's not something that he really did. But when he tries to kind of get off his very straight line tracks of what he does, it doesn't look great. And I think that pull up shot was a really ugly, barely hit the rim. So he plays to strengths, which is something smart players do, but he is relatively limited in what those strengths are. He's good attacking the rim at times. He has a step back 3-point shot, which when he gets to can be good. And he can drop it off to that kind of big to that screener relatively well on the pick and roll. The defensively, I've just been really impressed. The deflections, the field, the rebounding, he's an actual proper two-way player. And that's almost what I think I've been most impressed with, that I just wasn't expecting. Because he's slight, he's small, he's not especially long, he's not especially thick. But he really makes his impact felt defensively. The idea of, I think, when he came in, we were like, will he play point guard? Is he a 1? Is he a 2? The question is so obvious now. He is clearly a 2. When he's played point, the team has an offensive rating of 102 points per game. With Micic in that time, it's 118 per game. Now, I think that just tells you everything you need to know, right?
That answers that question.
To generate good offense when Tre Mann is your full-time single ball handler. That's my lot on Tre Mann.
I think Tre Mann's defense has been my favorite post All-Star break, storyline or discovery, I guess is probably the better term. It seems like it kind of came out of nowhere. Obviously, he wasn't a high minute guy in Oklahoma City, but he definitely did not have this reputation of being an active defender in this way. And that's what deflections indicates. It's a direct implication on your activity and just your ability to read passing lanes and just be involved in the game defensively. He has made a huge impact on that end since he got here. And like you mentioned, he's got some very reliable tools in his bag as an offensive player, really good ball screen playmaker, not much of a playmaker outside of that, but he can make lob passes. He makes dump offs, pocket passes, can make the corner kickouts and skip passes every now and again. He really just does what you need him to do, and he does it well. And it's hard to find players that do that, in a small role in the NBA. I've talked about role player consistency a million times. He is one of those guys that can actually just go out there and you can really rely on him to be the exact same player every single night. And that's a good player too. So there's a lot of value in players like Tre Mann on your team.
The low hanging fruit for him is the step back threes. In OKC, he was in the 40s of his frequency. I think he was 45, 46%. And this year his volume has dropped down to 34 with Charlotte. And this is a team, desperate for 3-point scoring, for shooting. So maybe it's a coaching thing. Maybe it's something he's been pressured by Steve Clifford. But I'd like to see him go to that step back 3-point shot because that was one of the big selling points of him as a prospect in